the holidays. The holidays are here. So for me, it's Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all. I'm drinking out of my favorite Christmas goblets. I'm drinking ginger beer. Love ginger beer. Great stuff. And it got me to thinking what I want to do the video about. In today's video, I want to talk about how to do a sound check, the do's and don'ts. And the reason that the holidays made me think of that is because last Thursday night, the Sam Morrison Band, we did our last show of the year at the Bakersfield Music Hall of Fame. I'll link these two videos together. So if you haven't seen that one, it's a great video. I kind of did a walkthrough on the venue, showed the venue. It's very historic. It's a really cool place. And as I was doing the video, it got me to thinking, man, I'm going to do a video on how to do a sound check. Not so much a load in, maybe load in and sound check, I guess, at the same time, but really more poignantly how to do a sound check, because I think it's really important for young people to know how to do that. And even some people who are seasoned players. Hopefully I'll have some tidbits in there for you, because I've seen a lot of people who are pros, who are seasoned players kind of, make some blow. And myself included, right? So these are all observations, not judgments. First of all, before I get started in that, though, if you do like my videos and you like this content, please consider subscribing and please like the video. It does help the algorithm, as everybody says, so I greatly appreciate that. So here we go. Let's jump into it. The first do is, I think, the most simple one, but it's a really easy one. Be on time, right? Be on time for sound check. So if sound check is at 3 o'clock, be there at 10 minutes to 3, right? Be a little bit early. Be ready to load in and do your sound check. Because usually when they say sound check is at 3, they really mean load in, right? So be a little bit early for that. Especially, and I'm not talking right now in my mind's eye about like being on the road, right? I'm thinking more about just an average bar gig, right? You're doing a club gig, you're doing something like that, especially if you're a drummer. If sound check's at 2, 3 o'clock, whatever it is, be there, be the first one there. Be there before everybody else. And the reason being is, you're the guy in the back or the girl in the back. If you're the drummer, right, and everybody's set up their guitar rigs and they got guitars on stands and pedal boards and everything, the band's not going to appreciate it. First of all, if you show up late. And second of all, you show up late and you're stepping all over their stuff trying to get your 22-inch bass drum on stage to set up and play and be ready to play. It doesn't go well. So be early, right? If you're the drummer, especially, be a little bit early. Now, this is a double-edged sword. You got to check with the sound crew. Let's say you are on the road, right? In our case, let's say sound checks at 3. We need a little bit more time than that, because in our case, in my band's case, the Sam Morrison Band, we travel with our own in-ear monitor system, and we have to tap our system into theirs for our monitors to work. So we need a little bit more time. Our bass player, who is, my God, this guy's amazing. He has a computer program that he checks all the Wi-Fi to see how good the signal is. He checks and makes sure that there's no overlapping frequencies, so that all of the in-ear packs, the wireless packs will work. He's really got it down to a science, and it takes time to do that. So make sure you give yourself enough time, but you also, again, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Don't step on the sound crew's toes. Make sure that you check with them first. Talk to the powers to be. Hey, we're coming in with X, Y, and Z. We need to be there a little bit early. I know you said sound check was at 3, but is it cool if we get there at 2? Or are we going to be in everybody's way? If they say it's cool and you get on the stage, still check with the sound crew. Don't just assume it's cool to start throwing your stuff up on stage. Make sure that they're set and ready for you, because the same thing goes for them as what I was saying for the a minute ago for the drummer, right? If they're still trying to run drop boxes and cabling and trying to stretch a snake across the stage and all this stuff, and your stuff's up there in their way, they're not going to appreciate that. So just make sure that everything runs smooth that way. I think it's really, really important. Also, number 2, don't play until you are asked to play, okay? Don't just start wailing away, right? Now, I think it's one thing once you kind of get your stuff set up and you kind of get stuff in to kind of, in my case on the drums, get my in-ears in, I'll boom, boom on the kick drum, snare drum, toms, make sure all my cymbals are working. I carry my own cymbal or my own microphones for my cymbals, my overheads, my hi-hat mic. All the drums are internally mic'd, right? So I just want to make sure they're working. I don't sit there and wail. I just put in my ears and make sure everything is working. Again, don't play until you're asked to play, because here's what happened. And this is where I blew it just recently, like a couple weeks ago. Guys working on the bass drum, I literally didn't see him there. Now, I wasn't going to wail away, okay? I looked inside the bass drum, and it looked like the microphone wasn't right in the right place, and I looked at it, and I just tapped on the bass drum to make sure that it hadn't fallen out of the shoe, which is the thing that holds the microphone. And he sticks his head, the sound guy sticks his head, he goes, hey, wait, hold on just a second, around my bass drum. Well, honestly, I didn't see him there. Now, I could have gone through, dude, I wouldn't do that, and go through this whole thing. I was like, oh, man, I'm sorry I didn't see you there. I left it at that. So the point is, don't play until you're asked to. I'm not saying don't check your tone and make sure that everything's working in the room. I'm just saying don't stand there and start wailing. Doesn't matter if you're the drummer, the guitar player, the bass player. Nobody wants to hear that stuff, because there's a lot going on. There might be a conversation happening and you step on that conversation. You don't want to do that. And it might be an important conversation about something for the show, for the sound, for the lighting, whatever. Don't step on that stuff. That's super, super, super important. And don't noodle in between the sound checks, okay? Or don't noodle in between songs. Meaning, let's say you're going to do a sound check with a song, and you're switching from, let's say, acoustic or electric guitar to acoustic guitar. That takes seconds, right? But while that person is changing the instruments, don't be or don't do that. Just be chill, right? Let them get their stuff so you can do the next song. It's so incredibly important. Drummers, and believe me, I'm speaking to myself right here, don't be too loud, right? And man, I'm guilty of that, right? Just playing too loud. Guitar players, I've had guitar players in the past say to me, I play loud because the drums are loud. Well, okay, yeah, drums are loud, but maybe you play loud because you're playing 2 412 cabinets and a Marshall head, and it's just going to be loud. It has nothing to do with the drums. You're going to be loud, right? Don't be too loud, right? If you're playing, granted, if you're playing like a rock gig like I do, it's going to be loud, right? It is going to be. But if you have everything cranked up and they haven't pulled you up in the front of house yet, and you're just wailing away, well, there's no headroom. The sound guy has nowhere to go, and all of a sudden you're just wailing away, and it starts coming through the PA. Man, that's not cool. No bueno. So don't be too loud. Watch your volumes. I have to really, really be aware of that. And I really have to know the room. For myself personally, I carry on tour, always have 2 snare drums with me because you might break a snare drum head, right? So I have a backup snare drum. But I also make sure I have 2 completely different snare drums with me, because the room, right? The different rooms, a snare drum is, certain drums are going to sound better for that room. Personally, I like metal snare drums, and I'm not talking heavy metal. I like metal snare drums. So I like chrome over steel. I like, anodized brass. I like bell brass. I like a brass snare drum. I love an aluminum snare drum, right? Really, aluminum's kind of my favorite sound for a snare drum. I just love the way an aluminum snare drum sounds. And I'm a Gretsch guy, but I have, like, one of my favorite snare drums that I play all the time is a WFL3 5¼ inch aluminum snare drum. And man, it is a loud drum. And it sounds fantastic, but some rooms it just doesn't sound good. And it has nothing to do with the drum. It has to do with, maybe it's a low ceiling. Maybe it's a low ceiling over the stage and a really high ceiling over the showroom. So it's going to echo like crazy. So in that case, I'll still use a metal snare drum, but I'm going to use a 6½ inch deep snare drum, which is going to be a little bit quieter. And I might use like a chrome over steel or a brass snare drum, which, believe it or not, won't be as loud. It's not going to be as loud as a 5¼ inch aluminum snare drum. Those 5¼ inch drums, man, they just kabam, they smack, right? They're really loud. So be prepared for the room, right? Be prepared for the room. Be ready to do a full song. when you go to do sound check, sometimes you'll make it halfway through a song and things just are not working. And I think it's better, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I think it's better to kind of stop a song at sound check if things are just not working than it is to waste everybody's time to play the whole song and then try to fix stuff, right? So, you may have to make some adjustments. Now, again, in my case now, we travel with our own in-ear monitor systems. We run our own mixes on a tablet, and it works great. But when it's time to start getting levels up, if you don't have that luxury and you're relying on a monitor person, make sure that after you've run the song, don't sit there and everybody start yelling at the monitor guy all at once of what you need, right? Nobody wants to, the poor monitor guy sitting there and the guitar player saying, I need less bass drum. And then the bass player saying, I need more guitar. And the drummer's going, I need everybody turned up. All this stuff is yelling at this guy. Go one at a time and tell, okay, so singer, what do you need? And the singer will say what he needs. Saxophone player, what do you need? He'll say what he needs. Keyboard player, and go around the stage like that. It's way easier. It's way more professional. And then the poor sound guy isn't getting bombarded by everybody because it kind of feels like they're being attacked, like you're yelling at them, to them, right? You're just like, hey, I need more bass guitar. But everybody's yelling at him. That's really frustrating, and it makes for a really bad sound check. So make sure you run the full song, and then after the song, tell them what they need. If you can't make it through the full song, cut it off, get it fixed, then try to run the song again. Don't rush the sound crew. Don't rush the sound crew. Let me say it again. Don't rush the sound crew, right? If they're having a hard time, maybe there's some problems with the gear, maybe they brought something to the gig, and maybe there's a channel in the snake not working, right? And so they've got to repatch stuff, or they have a bad cable plugged in. Don't push them. Let them do their thing. I've been guilty of that. We all have, right? So make sure you don't rush the crew. Again, that goes kind of back to the first one, being on time or being a little bit early, so nobody feels rushed, right? You don't want that extra added pressure of I got to get the sound just right so we can play a great show, and now you're running around like a chicken with their head cut off trying to make it happen. Once you're there at the gig, okay, once you're at the gig, don't leave the gig. Okay? Don't leave the gig. And what I mean by that, we were on tour one time. Here's an example, right? We were on tour one time, and it was, I don't remember, it wasn't a real long drive. Let's say it's 30 minutes from where we were staying to the gig, okay? 45 minutes, whatever it was a distance, right? It took us a little time to travel from the Airbnb we were at to the gig. And we had a couple of different vehicles. One of the people, this one particular person, was traveling by themselves to the gig to have their own car. So we get done with sound checks. As soon as sound check's over, this person's like, okay, I got to go back to the Airbnb and get ready. And we're like, okay, well, and we had time. It was a couple hours before the show. But still, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back, that's 1 hour. You got 2 hours, take a shower, get ready, get your clothes, blah, blah, blah. Well, sure enough, person splits, takes off, comes back. They're not there. Time for the show to start. We start the show. Show's going halfway through. It could have been the first song. I don't remember. First song, second song, whatever. They kind of sheepishly walk on stage. And then, you don't dare look at them weird, because then they give you twice a dirty look. Like, how dare you look at me because I was late? They were very defensive about it. And I'm sure they're embarrassed about it. But at the same time, and then after the gig, you start hearing all the excuses. Oh, well, I came here and I went to the wrong room, and then the security guy told me where to go, and he told me the wrong room, and I opened the door and nobody's there. All this just, come on, don't do that. When you're there, be prepared to stay. So what that means is have your clothes, take a shower before you leave for sound check. Whatever you got to do, be ready to do the gig from after sound check. Be ready to stay there. That's not to say if you have 2 hours and you're going to go across the street to a restaurant, get something to eat, that's fine. But don't have to drive across town and then drive back. What if you get stuck in traffic? What if your phone dies and you don't have your GPS and you get lost? There's so many variables that can happen. So don't do that. Make sure that you're there. Make sure you're ready to play and that you're ready to stay there. Bring spares. What I mean by that, a minute ago I said if I break a snare drum head, I have 2 snare drums, right? But I also carry the 2 different size snare drums for the different rooms. Bring extra guitar strings, guitar picks, drum sticks, drum heads, XLR cables, which are microphone cables, guitar cables. Bring spare everything, because if you're playing, like in my case, you're on the road and you're out in the middle of nowhere in Texas playing a bike run in the middle of a field and you break something, man, it may be 2 hours to get to the nearest music store. You're not going to be able to do it. So bring spare everything. Be prepared for the worst. And then at the very end of sound check, be grateful and be thankful to the sound crew. Be respectful to them. Thank them. Show them gratitude, and especially like if, before we travel with our in-ear monitors, I was the first one in the band to go to in-ears, and I had this whole setup and everything. And I was pretty picky about it, man. I was pretty picky about how I wanted my ears to sound, because I know what I needed to pull off the show. And the way I saw it was every time we do sound check, as I mentioned before, I would try to get stuff really dialed in at the gig, or at sound check, so I didn't have to do it at the gig. And as I mentioned before, this poor sound guy over there running monitors on the side of the stage, get done with you go up there at the first song of the show, and somebody's inevitably walking up to the soundboard with their guitar going like this, pointing at their guitar or pointing at the bass or pointing at something to turn it up, turn it down. And I'm sorry, but when you're in the middle of a show and the sound guy's got somebody in their face pointing at their instrument and then they're going like this, well, does that mean up or down? What does that mean? I don't know what that means, and everybody's panicking. So make sure that you take care of that stuff at sound check. And then, like I was saying a second ago, in my case, if I've told the sound guy 20 different things I need, I'm going to go up to him afterwards and go, dude, I know I'm picky with my in-ears. I know, I get it. Thank you so much for bearing with me. Show that gratitude. I promise you that they will thank you for it. I promise you that. So anyway, that's my take on sound check. If you made it this far through the video, thank you for watching. Again, please like and subscribe. For more information on subjects like this, please check out my book, Drum Up Your Business, which is available at my website, bartrobley.com, or for the digital version at hudsonmusic.com. Links for all of that are in the description below, and I will see you in the next video. And in the meantime, again, you know what? Merry Christmas.